Hi, folks. Welcome to this episode of At Home JCare. Today, I have the pleasure of having a guest on my podcast. This is Bhushan. Bhushan and I have worked together for close to, I think, 6 years now. Other than having a professional life, on and off, we talk about lives and situations and travels back and forth from India and things that we're doing on vacation. So I've known Bhushan for 6 years, and during this time, there's a lot of things that changed in his life. Today's episode is focused towards Bhushan being an NRI and his journey as a son through how he looked after his mom from far away. So we want to touch a little bit through the journey of what he went through, what his mom went through, what he really had to prepare himself for, knowingly, unknowingly. So, in his own words, let me introduce Bhushan. Maybe you can talk a little bit about your family and back in India and here, and then we can get started with the episode.
Thank you, Smita. Thanks for giving me this opportunity. I've been here in Bay Area since 2008. It's been close to 18 years now. Being a only son, right, I mean, I actually went through a kind of a emotional struggle during last few years, while my mom was going through a terminal disease. I'm here with my wife. She works for health. She's into healthcare profession. I have a daughter. She's in junior now. She'll be probably going to college in a couple of years. So I mean, I have my family responsibilities here, but at the same time, I was managing things for my mom back in India. My mom, when I moved here, she was actually a working profession. She used to work for central government. After she retired, my dad was already retired. One thing, right? I mean, and this is probably a learning for us as well, and for other parents. And if you have your parents who are going to retire soon, this is something which I would highly recommend. Is you need to make sure that they plan for their retirement. We also need to do it at some point of time. But what my mom did is, I have my sisters back in Mumbai. They are busy in their own lives. So my mom didn't really have anything, any objective after her retirement. So initial few years went by, and then suddenly she she was diagnosed with this terminal disease, which is COPD. Her lungs started giving up slowly during initial period. Right, we used to manage with medication, but around COVID time, her situation kind of deteriorated significantly, and then we had to put her on continuous oxygen supply.
So, before that situation, was there a time frame where she visited you? Maybe, was that even an option in her head that she might want to come?
No, she did. She did visit us here. She was here with us for 4 5 months. Just before pandemic, around 2017-18, she was here. In fact, right, I mean, I could clearly see that her health kind of improved, right? She gained bit of weight. She was not showing the symptoms she used to show back at home. And I think that the primary contribution to that is the clean air that we breathe here. Being in Mumbai, right? I mean, having a clean air is kind of a luxury, unfortunately. But I felt that is one of the contributing factor that her health deteriorated rapidly in India. We tried to figure out a way if she can stay here with us, but then she was not mentally ready, and I didn't really want her to compromise on her lifestyle in the sense, right? She used to talk to her sisters, her other relatives. Many people used to come and visit her regularly there. That would have been compromised, if we would have forced her to stay here. So I you know I didn't want to do that to her. I mean, if I would have pushed her, probably she would have reluctantly agreed. But I knew that it would have been against her wish. So we didn't really push her. She went back to India. She was managing everything on her own. But immediately after pandemic, we could see that her situation started deteriorating. Where
Were there any specific signs where you decided that, she needs help and she can't live on her own?
Yeah, so one of the primary reason I actually wanted her to be on her own, because that keeps her engaged, and then she had chores to do, where she used to spend time on her own. But when she was put on a full time oxygen, at that time, it was not manageable for her and for us as well, right? So at that time, I thought of looking for in-house help. Initially, I was looking for a person who can stay with her 24 hours and manage cooking and everything else, because then I wouldn't have to worry about, hey, if someone has come on duty or not, but so we initially had people who used to stay with her 24 hours, but it came with its own challenges, right? Because if you see, right, even though that person used to be with her full time, we still had people who used to come and do regular cleaning and stuff like that. So this person who used to stay with her initially, she didn't really have much to do other than cooking and just looking after her medication. She didn't really have much to do, because my mom was, she could manage going to bathrooms and getting wash and getting bath herself. So this person didn't really have much to do. And what used to happen is, they used to get bored, Smita, and then they used to get distracted full time on phone. Even if you pay them decent, right, I mean, they will get bored at some point of time, and there used to be a churn every 3-4 months. I have to always look for another person to replace this person. So then we said, okay, this is not working. Then we started looking for 12-hour shift, like that, right? So one person will come in the morning and the other person will come in the evening. So
Right.
that used to work very well, but the challenge with that, you have to. My mom is very particular about cleanliness and the food quality and taste, right? So it was not easy to find someone who can be there with her and make food which can satisfy my mom's taste buds, and even maintaining the quality, right?
Mhm.
So that was a bit of a challenging. And the other thing is, when these people leave, right? Because in unfortunately in India, right? I mean, this is a constant battle that finding a good person and keeping them is not as easy. So
Find someone. What was your dependency? How did you guys go about finding someone?
so yeah, that's a good question, Smita. So initially, I used to go with references within my friend circle, in my relatives and their friends. We used to always find some or other references through which we used to hire these personnel. But then, right, I mean, it used to keep me awake at night, because every other day there will be some or other challenges. This person didn't come, so need to um, look for backup for a couple of days. Some days, they will call me. The good thing is, right, I mean, now you have WhatsApp, right? So they have access to you directly. When looking 7-8 years back, until 7-8 years back, right, I mean, we didn't really have these kind of tools, right? But yeah, now at least through WhatsApp they used to call me. But at the same time, right, I mean, they used to call me during not middle of night, but late night, early morning. And for some or other challenges they have to leave. They couldn't they couldn't come on specific days. So those kind of used to take a toll, emotional toll on me, because you have your day job, and on top of that, you have to manage these things. It was not easy. Although I have my sisters back in Mumbai, they were busy in their own lives, so I didn't really want to add this additional burden on them. So I was managing everything remotely. I always had my mom's and these caretakers number on a VIP list. So even if it's middle of night and even if my phone is on silent mode, I used to get their calls. But yeah, dealing with these logistics was not easy. If I reflect back, right? I mean, those initial 2-3 years after pandemic, I think if I had taken the decision of having outsourced this to someone, would have been a better way to go about it, which I eventually did. I actually outsourced all this process um, to a home caregiver company, which actually manage these rotations, their backfilling, and so on and so forth. Even that, then, right, I mean, I struggled initial days because one of the company, they didn't really have quality resources. So but eventually I found someone who worked well with our requirements and worked well within those requirements and provided us a quality support.
So, one part of is about caregivers, bringing the right caregiving agency and things like that. Being a son staying away, what are your tips on how can we support our parents emotionally? Like making sure they don't feel like we've left them and we've come here, right? I mean, we are torn between two places because our kids are here, parents are there. How was that emotional battle of making sure your mom feels that you care?
Mita, it's a very good point, right? I think in today's world, thinking that right, we are away from them, and probably we're getting too emotional as well. That we should have been there during this time with them. But this is nothing about being in US versus any other international place, right? I mean, I see these things happening within India as well. I Even if someone is staying outside of the state, they don't visit their parents often. I know families and kids who don't visit their parents once in 6 months or once in a year, because it's our lifestyle has changed, Smita, and so I think we should not feel that, right? I think on the other side, I think our generation is blessed because now we have access to technologies and resources which was not available in early age, right? With WhatsApp and access to these several apps, right? I mean, you can get things done quite easily, right? I mean, WhatsApp,
Yeah.
it's made your life easy. I mean, you can talk to your parents whenever you want. You can have video call. Yeah, you're not physically there, but you can do almost everything, right? I mean, you're not. Yeah, just the one thing which you can't do, right? You can't just hug them.
Yeah.
That's it. But other than that, right? I mean, you can see them, you can talk to them, they can see you at any given point of time, right? Even if your work, right? You can just step outside meeting on, just take some time off, and you can talk to them. So I think that is something which we should leverage, and we should not punish ourselves by thinking that probably we could have been of better help if we would have been there. And we have to detach ourselves from these emotions. That is something which I would strongly suggest everyone, that don't get emotionally drained because of all these uh, having in a different geography. Actually, it probably it helps you a lot, because then you can actually make some rational decisions.
Right, right. And also, I think coming from an Indian background, Bhushan, there was a lot of responsibility on a son, right? There's, I think that still exists. Maybe it's becoming less. I mean, of course, my parents only have daughters, so I don't know much about it. But I think people still feel like if you have a son, he takes care of everything. So I'm sure there was that added from the society and everything for you as well that you had to deal.
Yes, yes. It's Yeah, I mean, traditionally, that's how the things still. I shouldn't say work, but that's an expectation from being a son. The society has from you. But for me, right? I mean, it was not just because of that. I could see that, right? I mean, my sisters, they had their in-laws to take care of. They had their jobs and their family, right? So they were already so busy in their own life that I didn't really want to put this burden on them. I mean, they did help me a lot, whenever I needed something to get done, which involved your family members. And I used to rely on my sisters, so they actually they played a vital role in this entire process, Meta. So having them was definitely beneficial, but because I was not physically there, right? So, but yeah, something's right. I mean, if you want to go to a bank, right, because and you have to take care of some finances or anything, right? I mean, I always relied on my sisters for doing that.
Yeah, I think, one thing that comes out to me very clearly talking to you, Bhushan, is acceptance that this is how aging is going to be. My body is going to slow down. My parents' bodies will slow down with age. Quality of life at that age is coming from a caregiver, somebody who has to be there. And probably that cannot be your close relative like your kid because they have a family to run, they have jobs to run. So, acceptance to the fact that when you age, you will need help and preparing for it would actually help you a lot more.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think this something which I during this process I realized is, you know here in US now you have old age homes, and you have senior living. We call it senior living as well. I think Bangalore and other places probably have better options available, but in Mumbai I couldn't really find. And there is a social stigma, which comes to it. But I feel those are the places that we should definitely consider, and if your parents are open, and it actually can elevate their lifestyle as well, because the resources, the infrastructure they have, actually, in my opinion, it actually improves their lifestyle in these later ages. If you don't have a family to take care of, rather than being dependent on these the care, I mean, if you have a good system working for you, it's well and good. But this is also an option I would strongly encourage even parents, and even for me, right? I mean, I always think that, I mean, if I'm, and I can be in this situation, in my later age, that, I may not have my immediate family members around, and I would be happily, to consider this option moving into senior living, because you will always have 24-hour support system around you, and you will have access to different resources which can probably improve your lifestyle.
That's true. Lately, senior homes and senior living has become an option for a lot of seniors. I do see them trying to do that, especially if kids are away. Um, Not for everyone, like you said, but still, that is an option.
Yeah, because there is still a social stigma, right? That's where you still see some of the parents which are still not open. But at the same time, I can see that the mentality is shifting towards, acceptance.
More than stigma, I think it's the vulnerability. With age, they feel so like then you can't take a person at that old age and put them in a new environment where they don't understand the dynamics and they have to deal with it alone. I think that's more vulnerability for them. Staying in a place that they have known for years, they know the system, they know how to work it. So yeah. Well, it's been a very interesting conversation with you, Bhushan. I know we've talked on and off, but I'm really thankful for you coming on the podcast. Any
Mhm.
parting words for the audience here on how to handle aging?
I mean, every of us, we have to go through this process, right? So I think, it's going to be a welcome change. You will not have to deal with your career related stresses and other stresses, right? So make sure that you're in good health, so that you can cherish and make your old age memorable and joyful, right? So yeah, take care of your health. That is probably the
Yeah, well, that
one of the
reminds me, I
key
and
suggestion.
Bhushan just ran a half marathon very recently. So hopefully we'll do more of that too, right?
Yes, we should.
All right. Thank you, Bhushan. Thank you so much for
Yeah, thanks, Meeta. Yeah,
see
bye.
you. Bye.